We're joined now by the reporter added to that classified signal thread, Atlantic editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg. Mr. Goldberg, thanks so much for joining us on what is no doubt a very busy day for you. So let's start out with, I guess it was March 11th when this really starts to unfold. And business as usual, you get some texts on Signal, which is encrypted for people who are really requiring a little more privacy or security on their threads. And you tell us the rest.
I get a message request to connect with Mike Waltz, who's the national security advisor, or someone who's purporting to be Mike Waltz. Not an unusual thing in Washington. I'm a journalist. I've met him in the past. So I accept it. Nothing happens. I sort of forget about it. And then a couple of days later, I'm added to a group of seemingly very, very high national security officials of the United States. I think that this is a spoof. I think that someone is running a hoax,
like
or
a disinformation campaign at this point.
Yeah. The main reason I thought that actually was that it seemed completely absurd to me that the national security leadership of the United States would be meeting on a messaging app to discuss forthcoming military action, and that they would also sort of invite the editor of the Atlantic magazine to that conversation. So I tracked this for a while, obviously, to see what was going on and see who was trying to entrap me or trick me. There's a long conversation on Friday, the day before, about whether they should or shouldn't take this action in Yemen. It's a robust conversation. It's actually pretty impressive in some ways. They're going back and forth. A lot of resentment directed at European allies of the United States, which obviously enhanced the credibility of this chain, because everybody in the chain sounded like the people I know who are in this administration. Nevertheless, it wasn't until Saturday that I was reasonably certain that this wasn't a hoax, that I had actually mistakenly been included in a conversation of the Principals Committee, essentially the leaders of the national security community, including the head of the CIA, in this discussion of whether the Houthis should be attacked in Yemen.
Can you give us a sense of your reaction in that moment that you realize you are that fly on the wall in this very critical conversation?
Honestly, my reaction was, I think I've discovered a massive security breach in the United States national security system, which is to say, it's almost automatically true that if the editor-in-chief of the Atlantic is being given access to this kind of information, weapons systems and packages and timing and weather in Yemen and all kinds of information about sequencing of particular events, then obviously there's a security breach. The second thought that I had was that, this has obviously been a subject of political debate for years in America, obviously in earnest since the Hillary Clinton email server issue. And Donald Trump, of course, has called for Hillary Clinton to be imprisoned because of her emails. And yet here I am watching his administration engaging in a conversation on my phone, in essence, about matters that one would assume would be kept hidden from open source commercial messaging apps.
Now, how dangerous do you think, and have you thought about that this could have been had it not been you who, you have your druthers that decide, this information, I'm not going to let it all out because it could be a danger to some real people. But in the wrong hands, how could this have gone very left?
You try to figure out what is in the public interest and what is not. What is in the public interest is to know that the secretaries of defense and state and treasury and the CIA director and the director of national intelligence and the national security advisor and the vice president are all talking on an app that you can just download on your phone. And they're not just talking about, hey, what time is it? What time should we get dinner tonight? Or when is that meeting tomorrow? They're actually talking about substantive issues relating to kinetic action directed against America's enemies.
Has anyone from the administration been in touch with you today?
Well, I did talk to a couple of officials who gave me statements that, the first thing I needed to understand, obviously, was this in fact real? But no, I don't think they're particularly interested in right now in talking about how it came to pass that I got invited into this group.
Earlier today, the president said he was unaware that this had happened. Is that surprising?
Anything's possible in this White House, or really any White House, although this one may be more than others. I alerted his national security advisor shortly after 9 a.m. And then alerted Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, and a number of other officials, including Stephen Miller in the White House, emails with detailed questions about this shortly after. I would find it somewhat surprising that someone didn't tell the president right away that we've had an inadvertent security breach of pretty dramatic proportions. But I guess in the coming days we'll see reporting and develop reporting that might tell us more about the reaction inside the White House.
And I suppose you have been removed from the chat.
I removed myself from the chat, actually. So I am no longer privy to what, if anything, is going on in the chat. I watched this Yemen operation go from beginning to apparent end, and that was enough for me to learn that there's something wrong in the system here that would allow this information to come so dangerously close to the open, to the wild.
Jeffrey Goldberg, we really thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you.